Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Rose's Sports Monday on this Tuesday after the long Memorial Day weekend. I trust all of you had a good time, no matter what it was, and paid tribute to our veterans who lost their lives. And I got to tell you, I'll start out right away. I watched, I kind of mellow weekend for me and my wife. We just kind of took it easy around the house. And I watched a lot of those episodes of Band of Brothers again. And that's from 2001. I had to look it up. I'd probably missed 4 or 5 of them when they originally came out, and I've watched them over the years. But I was engrossed in watching all the series yesterday. And, I thought a lot about my dad who landed at Utah Beach a couple months after D-Day. But I was familiar with all his travails and what took place. But, man, that holds up. It was really well done, captivating, emotional, realistic. All those things. So I hope that was my tribute to all the vets who lost their lives watching Band of Brothers over the weekend on HBO. First of all, I want to thank our sponsors, Lexus of Wayzata, Lexus of Maplewood, our good friend Charlie Swanson, of course, the one and only Charlie. The Minnesota Twins, thanks for the Twins for jumping on board. In fact, a week from Monday, I'm going to go a week from yesterday, actually, excuse me. My daughter and I are going to go out and watch the White Sox play the Twins, who just got finished with the Twins, at least a part of it over the weekend. They play again this afternoon. And then Lucy nicotine pouches as well. So thanks to all of our sponsors and our special guests today, speaking of the Twins and a lot of other stuff to talk about. LaVelle E. Neal, the one and only from the Star Tribune, columnist for the Star Tribune. LaVelle, I trust you had a good weekend?
Yeah, a really good weekend. I had to, cover some events and did some interviews. And actually, Saturday I was at the Loons game when they came back in the 94th minute and salvaged a draw. Unfortunately, James Rodriguez has already gone to the World Cup, so I didn't see. That
was your last game before.
Yes,
they shut it down now, right?
MLS is shut down for 2 months now.
Does that make sense? Let's just start with that. Is that am I missing something? Does that make sense for 2 months to shut it down?
It's our respect for the World Cup. And this time, the World Cup's been expanded. The number of teams that qualify has expanded. So starting on June 11th, there's going to be 104 games.
Oh, my God.
It's going to take 6, 7, 8 weeks, for this tournament to take place and for players to come back to their club teams and to resume training for the restart of the season. This won't happen anymore because MLS, to my objections, is switching to a winter schedule to be in line with the rest of Europe, the rest of the world. So they're going to have like a winter break, but they're going to play. They're going to play like there's going to be games like November. There's going to be games like
crazy February.
I don't know how that's going to
in St. Paul here.
Yeah, exactly. Cities like Vancouver and Seattle and Minnesota and Toronto and Montreal. It's not going to be pleasant.
Right. I didn't intend on starting talking about World Cup. I did want to discuss it with you, but since we are on the topic, what are your thoughts about just how the U.S. is going to receive the World Cup itself? We've heard some, I'm saying horror stories, but interesting stories already about ticket sales being down, the cost of tickets, traveling, people aren't going to be allowed in the country, all this other stuff, security. I mean, I don't know how many sites. I know you got New York, LA. They got it's kind of spread out all over the place. It starts in July, right? Not that far.
Yeah. The first game's actually June 11th.
June 11th.
Yeah, it's coming up here. Well,
I'm way behind.
We're 10 days away, man.
Wow.
So this is going to be a very interesting tournament because I covered the '94 World Cup game between the United States and Brazil when it was here in the United States. That game was played on July 4th, 1994. That was also that's right around the OJ chase.
Oh, that's exactly when it was.
Yeah, exactly. So to think about that, it's rather remarkable. So just to see how the sport has grown since then to here is pretty remarkable. That started the MLS. MLS started 2 years after that. Now there's 30 teams. And, the appetite for soccer in this country has definitely grown. It's not mainstream by any sense of imagination, but it has grown. It's been very disappointing to see the pricing for the tickets. I always said, if it's ever in the United States, I'm going. But as soon as, first of all, I tried to get on the FIFA website to get in line to buy a ticket. And I was on for hours. I couldn't get through. And then people were getting through and having to pay $2,000, $3,000 for a ticket. But what's happened here, Mark, is that I just checked a few days ago, and the initial surge is over now. The secondary market prices are coming down. I saw tickets for Albania against Austria in Kansas City down to $259 last week.
Wow.
There's reports about All these hotel rooms that people thought were going to be snapped up immediately were not booked. So now there's hotels being released. So it sounds like if you're like a week away and you want to go check out a game, you may be able to get there without having to pay.
How many sites are there in the U.S.?
Oh, my goodness. Dozens. There's a couple in Canada, a couple in Mexico, but majority in the United States, yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the closest to here is Kansas City. Chicago's not having a World Cup game.
That's crazy.
Weird, but that whole Soldier Field situation is on another.
Oh, I know. I'm quite aware of that. I had my good friend Kevin Warren filled me in on that a week ago, and this is the last week of the Illinois legislature. It sounds like they're going to end up in either Hammond, Indiana, or Arlington Heights, the way it looks.
Well, I think they'll end up in Arlington Heights.
I think so too.
I think they've got the taxes figured out, the property taxes that they're going to have to pay.
And they're going to build around it, much the way they built in Egan, and there's going to be a lot of stuff out there.
What's going to happen, and Twins fans will be affected by this, is that Indiana now has a mechanism in place to build a stadium. Okay, so the rumor is that if the Bears don't go to Northwest Indiana, they're going to get the White Sox.
Interesting,
because Jerry Reinsdorf wants a new stadium.
Of course he does.
Yes, of course he does. So,
hey, getting back to the World Cup, has the U.S. team moved the needle at all? I mean, it wasn't that long. I remember watching. My son was a big football fan. Mm-hmm. We watched it together when the U.S. was playing pretty well. But what are the thoughts about the team and the field they've drawn?
It's grown a lot. In '94, and that really got my interest peaked about, okay, where are these players at when there's not a World Cup? So that's when I started paying attention to like the English Premier League and the Italian League and the French League and the Spanish League, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid. There were not many Americans playing on those teams. It has slowly increased, and now there's dozens and dozens and dozens of United States players playing in Europe now, playing for big teams. Christian Pulisic's at AC Milan, and Weston McKennie's playing for Juventus. You've got other players playing in Champions League games. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. Good players. Gio Reyna's playing in Germany in the Bundesliga. So you're now able to follow American players abroad, and so that's how much the talent levels increased, and that's how much European teams are now signing American players more than they ever have. And you've got some kids who are teenagers here going across the pond to pursue soccer. So it's gotten better. This will be the most talented USA team ever in this World Cup.
Given the number, talk about the feeder program. My son played soccer. I'm not saying he was World Cup capable of playing in the World Cup, but that how many kids are playing the sport right now, and the feeder program has been astonishing for years and years and years. You would think they'd be able to find at least a dozen premier players that could play at the level of other sports that we do in this country.
That is a continuing problem with U.S. soccer, trying to identify talented kids. I think we finally, and I love moms. I just want to make it clear that I love moms. Okay, we got all out of the soccer mom mentality in this United States because my kid is playing soccer just so he or she can stay in shape and have some orange
run around
after games.
Yeah, exactly. Get your treats after.
So
the game.
They're trying to identify these kids at a younger age, and so they're trying to figure out ways to scout and just be around all these leagues across the country and try to. They're trying to nationalize it a little bit, but it's really going to be tough because you got so many special interests involved here with coaches and wanting to be credited for discovering players and wanting to get some of this for that, and so it gets tough. But you're right. I mean, there's tens of millions of kids playing soccer in this country. Among other sports, it's not like they're taking over, but they're trying to find the ones that actually want to pursue it as a career.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. I mentioned what I did over the weekend, kind of laying low and watching Band of Brothers, but I also watched more than my fair share of baseball, Twins baseball, probably more than I have all year. They took care of the woebegone Boston Red Sox. My goodness, what's happened to that franchise.
Terrible.
I'll talk to you about the kind of what's going on in both especially the American League. But the Twins, I looked at the standings for the first time in quite a while. I went, wait a minute, the Twins are right there in wild card contention. I know where we are in the calendar right now, but they swept the Red Sox in Boston. They had a competitive game and a lost game yesterday in Chicago, but Taj Bradley, Zeb Matthews, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, a bullpen totally revamped, the likes of Louis Varland gone. What are your thoughts about kind of the growth, the maturity of this baseball team as they try to figure it out at the moment?
Well, Arjun Su had a column in today's on today's website eventually in the paper.
Yes, there is that.
He made a good point. What Pete Mackey has done with this pitching staff has been remarkable. They knew they were solid from a starting pitching standpoint. The bullpen was going to be a work in progress, and they had a bunch of guys who didn't have a lot of velocity or nasty stuff, just trying to hook and crook their way through games. They've slowly kind of mixed in some other people. Andrew Morris coming up has been a help. They moved Simeon Woods Richardson to the bullpen.
That might be his role.
Yeah, exactly. You got some other guys in the pipeline that could end up. And they've used like Kendry Rojas out of the bullpen and Connor Pralip as well. I think those guys are more destined to be starters, but right now they need all the talent they can get in that bullpen, and it's worked out. If the Twins bullpen's pitched very well the last 3 weeks, and overall the Stars have been in the top 10 in the league all year. So once they get a little bit of offense and don't give away extra outs, they got a chance to win some of these games. So, and as we see in Major League Baseball right now, anything's possible because you got some teams that are sailing and you got some good teams that are failing.
Again, if you're a baseball fan, if you haven't looked at the standings, do so. Teams like Kansas City, who've spent a lot of money. The Tigers spent a lot of money. These aren't just, they bottomed out the payroll. They know maybe a lockout's coming next year. We're going to forget about what's going on. And the Pohlads rightfully have received more than their share of criticism. But, the Red Sox spend a ton of money. Houston, pretty much everybody's under 500 except for the Yankees. And I think the White Sox are a game over 500. What the hell's going on?
Yeah. How about the Tampa Bay Rays with their low payroll? And people are saying this is not a mirage. They're legit. They've got a.
They managed to do this a lot, though.
They have a dynamic offense and they've got some good pitching, and they're showing that they. And that's not the easiest division. Don't forget the Blue Jays went to the World Series last year out of that division.
Correct.
The Yankees are just getting healthy. Their big starter just came back after recovered from injury. I don't know why I can't remember his name right now.
No, I haven't seen your moments myself.
Yeah, exactly. So they're getting healthy. They're going to need a catcher. Watch out for Ryan Jefferson to the Yankees rumors over the next few weeks, by the way. Yes.
Well, he's not even healthy right now.
When he comes back from the wrist surgery, which is a hamate bone, which is a lot of hitters.
They get hit with that.
I covered a game once when David Ortiz broke his hamate bone and stayed in the game. And then found out afterwards it was a broken bone.
Isn't that one of the main reasons why Ortiz was let go? No one picked him up until the Red Sox finally did, because he was suffering an injury. And remember, they played that series against the Angels in Anaheim, and Ortiz was a part of it. And then thinking no one was really talking about David Ortiz as a future Hall of Famer.
No, but the Twins will admit it was a bad baseball decision. But every other team, every other team in the league had a chance of adding David. And George Steinbrenner was saying, "I told my people to sign Ortiz."
Right.
It was total Seinfeldian of him to claim that I told my guys to sign Ortiz, but Boston did.
Getting back to the Twins, the one young player looked like he was emerging as a potential real star in this league, and certainly with the Twins, Royce Lewis, struggling mightily here with the Twins. They eventually just sent him down to St. Paul and got a great attitude, and he's had a great swing. All of a sudden, he's hitting home run after home run after home run. What's going on? Is it minor league pitching? Is it him just kind of straightening things out? And how long do you think he'll be in St. Paul before he comes back to the Twins?
I think it's him trying to straighten some things out. I mean, there's been stuff out there about how he tried, because he hired a hitting coach during the offseason. It didn't work. And the Twins gave him some suggestions and they weren't working either. I don't know what he's relied on right now, but he's gone to St. Paul and has figured something out. And right away, it's taken off. Matt Wallner's there too, but he was scuffling right off the bat here, but he's trying to figure things out as well. My thing is, I think Royce needs to spend a couple more weeks down there just to get in a groove and feel good about himself. So you want this to be the last time he ever goes to the minors. You want this to be the final fix. And so
they need to get him fixed. Yeah, and they need to get him back up.
Because it's getting kind of interesting with the Twins because they've moved Brooks Lee to third, and Brooks may be a better third baseman than shortstop. And range is an issue with Brooks. He's got a good enough arm. He's got great hands. His range isn't. He doesn't cover the ground that Carlos Correa did. So at third it's a little more of a fit. But as a third baseman offensively, I think you want a guy who hit 25 to 30 homers, which Royce can do. So I know some people are wondering, should Royce be moved to first? I was like, I don't know about that. I don't like to see a great athlete be wasted at first base. I would like to bring Royce back and see if he could stick at third and figure out the rest of the infield after that. But Orlando Arcia came up for Royce, and he's hitting well. But I've been to several Saints games already this year. He's got that bat is fantastic. He figured out something offensively. It's funny how that happens when he's been in the league for so many years and then he had trouble hitting and now he's all of a sudden something's locked in. Sometimes you have to get that wake up call when to get set down. So you got this whole Royce Lewis thing. And
yeah.
I think that I think Royce will be down in the minors for another 10 days or 2 weeks. And then he'll come back. I think they'll put him back at third and see. It's got to work. Because if he comes back, but it doesn't work this time, then you have to think about what's your long-term solution here. Because you got Kalen Culpepper at AAA.
I was going to ask you about Culpepper.
He looks like he is proving he can handle shortstop. He's got some power in his bat as well. They drafted a shortstop last year in the first round, Merrick Houston, who hands down is a terrific shortstop. And they're hoping that he figures out how to hit. So you've got guys in the pipeline here. I think they're at the point of no return with Royce. Next time he comes up, he's got to thrive.
My fear, I think a lot of Twins fans fear, is that all of a sudden the Twins find themselves in a real position for a playoff spot, a wild card spot, against all odds, really, because I mentioned pretty much every other team in the American League is playing under 500. And come trade deadline, as we get closer, we're obviously quite a ways away, that, instead of maybe going to acquire a player that could really help maybe put them over the top, here we go, the same old song of the Twins. You mentioned Ryan Jeffers, that they'd probably be selling off. I mean, I that's the last thing the message needs to be sent to the fan base at the moment.
During Twins Fest, I have a conversation with someone connected to ownership. And he told me if we're around it by July 1st, then we're probably going to look to add instead of subtract. So
that they will add.
Yeah, that they'll be looking at. Let's see how this next month transpires.
Right.
Because we're headed to June right now. And yeah, if they're within a couple games of a wild card spot, there's nothing wrong with making a little push, trying to actually, reward the players for keeping them relevant, for this long, and give yourself a chance. And they'll score some PR points with a skeptical public because they're mad about the Twins and their lack of moves over the last couple of years, or the fire sale from a year ago, if not, in addition to Jeffers being a trade candidate, the Joe Ryan rumors are going to start again.
Sure, they are.
Because I think people thought Joe Ryan was going to get traded to the Red Sox before the deadline last year. Those rumors are going to start their ugly head here again. But if the Twins hang around, and they've got a bunch of games against the White Sox, they could jump into second place here. Dare to dream.
Yeah, why not? Are you convinced there's going to be a lockout next season?
I'm worried, but I'm not convinced.
Okay.
I think that's because I've talked about, I've read about this as well. They want a salary cap. The owners are convinced that if there's a salary cap, their franchise values are going to go up because they're jealous of the other professional sports leagues. Mm-hmm. They believe that those franchise values have risen faster than theirs because they have a salary cap and more of a cost certainty. And that's what they want for baseball. Of course, that's a no-go zone for the Players Association.
Right.
So you're looking at a lengthy lockout, and it could be damaging. And which is troubling because since based on streaming and television ratings and eyes on the game, baseball is as popular as ever, and why would you kill that momentum by locking people out because you just want to get a salary cap? But the goal is for them is to get a salary cap. Two, a lot of TV deals expire, local TV deals expire after 2027. So that's when they want to bundle everything and sell it as a package. And so that will help their the economics on their end as well. They're jealous of the NBA. The NBA is in the first year of an 11-year, $77 billion TV package. And that's what baseball wants. So if they have to have short-term pain for long-term game, they have discussed, banging the 2027 season.
It is very confusing for the average fan trying to keep up with the streaming services and what you have to subscribe to, whether it's the Wild, the Wolves, even the Twins. Twins.
Look at the NBA trying to find out when the NBA playoff games are at. What? Peacock? What?
I know.
Amazon? What?
Prime. It's been crazy, and it's difficult for people who just aren't used to, they don't want to pay extra for all this stuff. Then I don't blame them at all. I mean, it's a crazy world we live in. Hey, let's take a break. Listen to hear from our wonderful sponsors and come back and talk. I know you had a conversation with Bill Guerin. You're doing a column on that and what the Wild need to do. Wild Wolves off season. Lots going on with that. Vikings minicamp starting. They're never out of season. We'll take a break and come back. You're listening to Rosen Sports Monday. Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. As I have told you, I recently purchased a new Lexus RX, and it is fantastic. The best car I've ever driven. Lots of room for a tall guy like me, and it just drives like a dream. Charlie Swanson and his staff have been so good to me, and I can't say enough about the wonderful treatment I've received from the service department to the people at the front desk. They're all very welcoming. We purchased an all-gas model, but keep in mind it also comes in a hybrid and a plug-in hybrid. And I think my wife is going to do an NX Lexus this spring. So go to Lexus of Wayzata or Lexus of Maplewood and come and see what they have that works for you.
Here is where it all starts. Here's where pages are turned and new legends are written. Here's where kids become lifelong fans and lifelong fans become kids. Here's where sunsets last longer, happy hour tastes better, and summer hits its stride. And when all of Twins territory stands together and believes hard enough, well, there's no place like here. Get your tickets at twins.com.
Looking for a pouch that actually stands out? A lot of people I know are reaching for Lucy because it's built for pouch users who want something different. The flavor lasts, the pouch feels great, and it's completely tobacco-free. Lucy pouches come in strengths up to 12 milligrams and have a unique shape that makes them comfortable and easy to use throughout the day. And if you want something even more unique, check out Lucy Breakers. They're nicotine pouches with a hydrating flavor capsule inside. Just crack it with your teeth for an instant burst of flavor that lasts. And that's what makes them different. Every other pouch feels the same, but Lucy Breakers are doing something no one else is, delivering the longest-lasting on-demand flavor in pouches. And now, Lucy's available in stores nationwide, so it's easier than ever to find. You can use the store locator at lucy.co/stores or get it delivered fast through apps like DoorDash and GoPuff. Lucy is the only pouch that delivers long-lasting on-demand flavor. Get 20% off your first order when you buy online at lucy.co/Rosen with promo code ROSEN. And if you don't want to wait, check out their store locator to find Lucy near you and grab it today. And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every customer is age verified. Warning, this product does contain nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Welcome back to Rosen Sports Monday, chatting with LaVelle E. Neal, who's plugged into everything. You're loving your new, I know it's not new anymore, but you're the idea that you're not just covering baseball, that you are able to be a columnist. This is it's kind of a dream, I would think, to be able to do the things you're doing right now.
Yeah, and this was something I didn't anticipate when I got into the business. I became a sports writer, so I could cover baseball, So when it was presented to me late 2020, I was like, man, I just like covering ball. I like going to a stadium. I like seeing the country. Covering baseball has allowed me to see this great country of ours, I started thinking, you know what, give it a shot. If it doesn't work, I can go back to writing baseball, And it's been great because it's been great getting around to the other professional sports teams and dealing with different athletes. And I've really enjoyed writing stories about the college athletes, going over to the U, going over to St. Thomas. I want to say, I joke that the kids have not been corrupted by life yet, but they usually have interesting backgrounds and they like to talk, So that's been kind of rewarding.
Well, and I think, as well as I do, that, the senior member of your staff, Patrick Royce, is still to this day, and he's still writing at a proficient rate, loves covering, small college, a town ball, whatever it is. And I love the fact that he's so engaged in that, because I think it really does help the readers, the listeners, whatever the case may be. A lot of great stories.
We changed our name a year ago or so to the Minnesota Star Tribune, but Patrick Royce was already covering the state before we made the name change. I'm on the phone with him last week. I got to drive to Mankato for a story. And I was like, why are you going to Mankato? He found a reason to go to Mankato like every other month, for something. But that's him. He's from Southwest, Minnesota, Fulda. He's worked in various newspaper organizations in the state. He's got his institutional knowledge is second to none.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I think we all benefit from that knowledge as well. So, yeah, we are in the midst of the Wild Wolves off season already, much to the chagrin of, let's start with the Wild, because we're watching the Vegas Knights doing a number on the Colorado Avalanche, who looked invincible. I mean, you think about the top 3 point getters, Colorado, Dallas, the Wild, they're all on the verge of being out, like real quick now, after what the Avs are experiencing against Las Vegas, who apparently could be winning another Stanley Cup. Yeah. I'm laughing about it only because you've got to be kidding me. This is the year they're not supposed to be there.
I know. And we thought, Colorado's like this big behemoth, but I was joking with some people. I think the Wild, sprinkled some meat tenderizer on the Avs before this series with the Vegas, because Cale Makar got injured during the Wild series.
He did.
And he has not been the same. He didn't play game 1. He's not the same guy.
McKinnon's hurt.
McKinnon's hurt too. And those are two massive blows.
He's playing, but he's just not now on the power play.
That's like that's like the Wild losing.
Sorry, suck it up. They hey, listen, Erickson, Eck, Brodeen out. Basically, those are two key cogs for what the Wild were missing out on. You can always use the excuse computer all you want, but Colorado, they get beaten like they've been getting beaten, and the blow a 3-0 lead. Oh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the Eastern Conference, I like Carolina's chances of getting past Montreal here and moving forward. So I don't think they're going to be easy out. There were a bunch of 100-point teams in the Eastern Conference this year too. So that was kind of a bit of a bloodbath. But the Western Conference is top heavy with Colorado, Dallas, and the Wild. How does Dallas feel? Why would you have to play the Wild in the first round? That's Gary Bettman and his regional rivalry theory,
which is so asinine because if you develop a rivalry, whatever opponent you're playing, I don't have a San Jose. I don't name the team. When you get into a best of 7 series, you develop that rivalry within a game or two.
Right. Plus, merit must be recognized. If a team has the second best record in the conference, it earns the right to play the 7th seed.
Otherwise, what's the incentive for next regular season?
Yeah,
just just get in the playoffs. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
The Wild destroyed Vegas all season long, which I know leads to our next discussion point. You had a chance, and I know there's a column you mentioned coming out talking to Wild GM, the always colorful Bill Guerin, talking about going after what they need to do. And I think both the Wild and the Wolves are going to be making some seismic movements, I think, this summer. The Wild forever interested in getting another centerman to kind of help this team get over the top. And what are your thoughts and in terms of your discussion points, if you can kind of lead us into your talk with Bill?
Well, Billy, he's not acting with urgency. He's going to sit back and read the room and check out the landscape before he acts. So, because he understands that it's better to not make a trade than make a bad trade. Mm-hmm. And he's got to make, he's looking for, first of all, it takes 2 to tango. He's got to figure out what assets he has. He believes he has the combination of assets in terms of current players and draft capital to make something like this happen. But he's not going to rush into this thing. It wasn't until what was the story? Like October or early November that they called Vancouver
about Quinn Hughes.
Quinn Hughes, timing matters to him, and he's going to wait for the right time to pounce because there's not a good center available on the free agent market.
No,
it's not. It's going to have to be through trade.
Well, it may very well end up being an in-season trade again. I mean, he's mentioned that look at the Hughes situation. It happened that way. Speaking of Quinn Hughes, I mean, he seems to say all the right things about wanting to stay here. He's buddy with Kirill Kaprizov and a bunch of other guys seem to love to hear, but that doesn't matter. His agent gets involved as well. They still have to sign him on the dotted line. Yeah,
that's true. And also, Billy could up the ante here by trading for one of his brothers.
That'd be nice,
and make it a family affair. That would definitely motivate Quinn. But I can imagine after years in Vancouver, which is like a dead end franchise, that Quinn just feels liberated to be in Minnesota, a hockey crazy state, with a good team with quality players, and he jumps right into that seasoning young. It's not a young core, but it's a growing core. With Kaprizov's like on the older side of this group, but you got Boldy and you've got Faber, and now you got Hughes, you got Jesper Wallstedt. He's
not going anywhere.
No, he's not. So he's in the middle of all that now. He's like, wait, we can do some damage here for years.
Yeah.
He probably is looking at a situation going, yeah, this could work. So in the end, I think Quinn is sincere about wanting to stay here.
Interesting because even though the Wolves up until this year had gone to 2 straight Western Conference finals, and the Wild had barely rarely get past the first round, I think the general consensus is the Wild are in a much better position right now as far as getting to that championship than the Minnesota Timberwolves for no other reason than the competition that they have to face. And I think more than anything, as we watch this slugfest between Oklahoma City and San Antonio, the reality hits. The Wolves can't compete with either one of those teams right now on a championship level. So what does Tim Connolly, the GM, try to do this year? We're hearing all these thoughts. I mean, I think the general consensus, there's no way in hell Julius Randle's coming back. What do they do with Rudy Gobert? What do they do to get a point guard to kind of, give Anthony Edwards some help? I mean, it's a big offseason for these guys more than anything because the reality was there in that San Antonio series that they can't compete against these guys.
Yeah, the Wolves are equipped to beat Denver, but they're not equipped to beat OKC, and now San Antonio. So they definitely need an upgrade in talent. Moving Gobert, I think, is risky because it's such the numbers show that when he's not on the court, defensively, they're just a different team. And that matters. But I've always argued for years that you remember the big three, you always had to have like the three superstars, a triumvirate here, when LeBron went to Miami and joined up with Dwayne Wade and
Bosh.
Yeah, and Chris Bosh, and the teams are operated that way. I've always said the Wolves have been like a 1.5 guy because you had Ant, but you weren't sure if Jaden was good. That's sure number 2. Julius Randle should be number 2, but they definitely didn't have a third wheel here. No. So, my thing is they got to get a point guard. They got to start with the point. Take the ball out of Ant's hands so he can. I think that would help him be even more of a threat. A point guard that can direct traffic on the floor, hit an occasional jump shot. And if you can't find a true point, sorry, my Chicago-ness is coming out here, but find a John Paxson type that just spent a career hitting jumpers because Jordan was double teamed, Find
and Alex Caruso.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, he played former Bull. He's actually a good defensive player.
He is.
Yeah. So I just think it's fun. And as much as it bothers me to consider this, but Kyrie Irving, he's probably gettable.
It concerns me. I agree that he's got a big name, big reputation, big game, but he's also hit with injuries.
Flat earther.
He's a little flat earther. Yeah, he's definitely out there somewhere in space. But
hey, he'd be good. He'd be good copy though.
He would be phenomenal. Meanwhile, what we do best in Minnesota, and Karl Anthony Towns is on his way to the NBA Finals. The Knicks destroying a lackluster team. The Cleveland Cavaliers look like they had their bags packed for, as they say, for Cancun. After game 1, when they had a 20-some point lead, and the series was over after that game. They could not recover from that game.
No.
And they went meekly into the night against the Knicks, who are a good team. I'm not taking anything away from them, but good for Cat. Everybody loves him in Minnesota. He deserves a shot at the finals. I still think they'll be underdogs against either San Antonio or Oklahoma City.
Right.
But don't underestimate this team. They're going to have a lot of rest right now getting ready for the championship. And as long as they have a guy named Jalen Brunson, he's money.
Chicago guy.
They say. Yeah, he's a Chicago guy.
Yeah. First of all, Mark, it's Turks and Caicos. That's a destination for athletes now once their seasons are over, right?
You're talking to Turks and Caicos guy, so I'm with you. I'd rather go to Turks and Caicos.
Second of all, someone on social media posted a picture of Kevin Garnett, who left, go to Boston, won a ring. Kevin Love left, went to Cleveland, got a ring. Andrew Wiggins left, got a ring. Yes. And now Cat could be the next person.
You know what, though? I mean, and I think we understand the dynamics involved with it and trying to explain, the second apron and what the max contract he was under. The Wolves were really up against it with Cat and with Ant on the same team. And from a salary standpoint, it almost had to be done. And, that's just the way it worked out.
And let's not forget, remember the report came out during that whole A-Rod, Mark Laurie trying to buy the club from Glenn because I called it a layaway plan because you could make 3 payments and buy the team, Remember it came out that during the proceedings, Laurie and A-Rod did not want to pay the luxury tax. Their plan was to reduce the payroll. Glenn was willing to pay the tax.
Yeah, that's right.
So keep that in mind as the Wolves navigate this offseason about what they're willing to add to this roster and how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, I'm not sold on that, on the whole Laurie A-Rod thing and their dedication to, and A-Rod of all people knows what it takes to win championships. That's money. He was on the Yankee team that did a lot of that.
And based on also, you look at franchise values going up. When that agreement was initially signed by the Wolves and A-Rod and Laurie, the Wolves were valued at $1.5 billion. By the time the final transaction was made, they were up to 3.1.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an example of rising franchise values.
I think a lot of people, the neutral fan, as we watch this San Antonio Oklahoma City series, are probably rooting more for the Spurs.
I am.
The SGA thing and the flopping, and I know I've heard people who defend him saying, "Look and I can't defend a lot of the stuff he's done when I watch him. He's falling before he takes the shot." I understand controlling your body and wanting to fall and not get hurt and all that kind of stuff, but come on. I mean, he just accepts, and he's a hell of a basketball player, obviously. But I think it does wear on people a little bit, the style of game that he plays.
I got problems with the entire roster, how they play. Okay. There's video of Chet Holmgren putting his foot on Wemby's foot.
Oh yeah,
while they're going for rebounds.
That was not a mistake.
Have you seen Hartenstein's on the screen? He's like a
Grabs
pulling
him.
guard trying to block for Adrian Peterson, for goodness sakes. He's like knocking people over and not getting calls.
Yeah.
That whole team, I call it the dark arts. They are proficient in the dark arts. They play in the gray areas and get away with as much crap as they possibly can. More so than any team I've seen in the league.
Yeah, I'm finding myself, and I like the young guards. This San Antonio team. It shows what happens when you get loaded up with draft picks and lottery picks. OKC's got a ton of them.
They still have picks coming.
They have picks coming, and so does San Antonio. But they draft wisely and they get people in there, and they still have to make the pieces work. But they've come from the depths of being irrelevant to, after all those championship years with Pop and Duncan and Ginobili and Tony Parker and all those guys, back to where they were. And it's actually kind of fun to see for a city like San Antonio.
Plus, it's been cool to see the specter of Popovich has been hovering over this team during the postseason. When De'Aaron Fox admitted that Pop addressed the team after their loss, and I was like, I think we all knew he was hanging around and was at practices and stuff, but
he's got a bigger impact than you think.
Exactly. That's like Yoda popping up every now and then and telling Luke how to levitate the Millennium Falcon. That's some major stuff here that OKC has to take in consideration.
Meanwhile, as we sit here, the Vikings are gathering for, it's called minicamp, OTAs, whatever, as the words of Allen Iverson. We're talking about practice, but it's the Vikings, and it's Kyler Murray, and it's J.J. McCarthy, and it doesn't matter how you slice it. Every single throw, everything is going to be analyzed once, the reporters are out there and, the video is being recorded. We're not near that stage right now, but it's here. And it's in your mind, I'm sure in my mind, I mean, it's Kyler Murray's job to lose. I don't know what he can do to lose the job other than stink up the joint in practices, but I don't see it happening.
I had the opportunity to run into and talk for about 10 to 15 minutes with J.J. McCarthy about 3-4 weeks ago.
No kidding.
And that kid's confidence is through the roof. I guess he had a good session out when he went back to California and worked on some things.
Guru.
And he's coming in with a lot of confidence and a lot of determination. So it's going to be a good competition.
Well,
but I would definitely see Kyler ahead of.
And that's the thing. The coaches, Kevin O'Connell has to answer that. How does J.J. McCarthy win this job when you're not really going to play? I mean, I know the Baltimore Ravens are coming to town for the 2-day scrimmage type thing they do before they play the exhibition game here. But in practice, he'll be evaluated. Preseason games, you're not out there with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison or your number one offensive line. So it's really a rhetorical question. I don't know how J.J. McCarthy can honestly win this job other than waiting for Kyler not to play well during the regular season. It's
been fascinating to see how J.J. has gone from coming into a great situation when he was drafted by the Vikings to now be in a crazy situation because of personnel changes and him being injured and him not getting the experience that he's needed. I thought it was I think the Vikings did not do him a solid last year by handing him the keys to the car.
100%.
And letting Sam Darnold walk and not keeping Daniel Jones around. They threw him in a position he probably didn't deserve to be thrown into.
He wasn't ready for it.
No, definitely.
And that I've heard that from more than a few NFL type people who know JJ and know the situation that he clearly wasn't ready. He might be this year, but now you've moved on in a sense, and they still got a Carson Wentz on the roster. But I just don't know how he's chomping at the bit. He very well may be light years ahead of where he was just even a year ago. But I don't know how you win that job unless Kyler does something or tweaks an ankle or does something in practice.
I'm curious to see how the offense looks under Kyler versus JJ. And does KOC have to have different plays for both those guys? I imagine he's got to have to because of Murray's ability to scramble, and plus he's not very tall. You want to put him in spots where he can make plays. Because it's by all indications he had to water down the playbook for JJ last year at times, especially during the second half of the season. How is that going to work when you deal with each one of these guys, and how is that going to get the most out of your personnel? Justin Jefferson, he is so anti-diva, and I love the fact that he's in Minnesota purple because he's been a quality guy. He has not complained, But you got to imagine it probably aided him a little bit last year that
it had
to see his numbers drop off the way it did with JJ. So
drives him crazy.
Jefferson's interest and production has to be kept in mind as well. Who can best get the ball to Justin Jefferson so he can do his thing?
Well, and again, to echo your point about J.J. McCarthy, Brian O'Neill's the one who said, I mean, it's like, wow, and he's a leader on this team. He said, JJ, we love him. I mean, he didn't have to say any of that stuff, but he said he commands the locker room. The players respect him. All the right things coming from Michigan, where it was not a pro system. We all know that he came from, but he's had to work on his fundamentals, and again, I lay that at the feet of the Vikings. Sometimes these guys just aren't ready, and they're pushed into it.
Yep.
And J.J. McCarthy's a perfect example of that. And now he's got it much the way, I'm not saying he's a Royce Lewis type of thing, but he had to recover from, not just the injuries, but getting his butt kicked.
Yeah.
An understanding of sailing footballs and doing the sorts of things that just, you're not going to make it as an NFL quarterback, to now saying, okay, now is the time when under normal circumstances, J.J. McCarthy would be ready to start an NFL team.
Yeah, a couple of things here. One, I hope he just doesn't call himself 9 anymore. Just leave the 9 thing to the side, okay? Yeah. 2, there's a phrase I've heard a lot in the last few years called drinking out of a fire hose, which really happens for young quarterbacks in NFL. I hope he's down to like garden hose, now that something he can handle. And I hope McCarthy's helping him get to that point too.
And finally, when our good friend Paul Allen does his meeting of the NFC North, whatever cabal, I don't know what he calls it, but
round table.
I'm going to be in your camp on this one. I think people think, well, the NFC North's wide open, and it is. But if you were to ask me today, here we are, right after Memorial Day, I'd say the Chicago Bears are the team to beat in the NFC North. Caleb Williams and what they did last year. Hard not to like that team's chances this year.
I appreciate you saying that. I'm very nervous as a Bears fan.
Why?
The Bears have the number 1 toughest schedule in the NFL next year.
Oh, come on.
Now it's not who you play, but when you play them.
Correct.
But they're on prime time 5 times already this year. They've got some in addition to the division, because the Lions, Packers, and Bears are all quality teams. The Vikings are actually the X factor in the North now. But the Bears, hopefully they address some of their defensive issues. If they can stop the run better, because they weren't really a great run defense last year. They're going to need that this year if they want to continue take off from where they were last year. But this young offensive talent with Caleb Williams, Kyle Monangai, Colston Loveland, Luther Burden, Cole Kmet's still there as well. They've got young offensive players, man, that can grow and become
something.
Look at the
smile on your face. LaVelle's smiling. You're looking for. Listen, we're in that time of year right now where the Twins are going to play. We got some soccer. We got a few. It's all about the NFL and the Vikings. And I know some of the people. Even I think it was one of the Kelseys that came out and said, we're losing our luster on Sundays, the NFL, because they got the games spread out throughout the week right now. Not just the European games, which is part of their huge marketing plan, which is what the NFL does. But the idea that we were talking about earlier on television, trying to find some of these games, and the fact that Sunday is no longer just the only day of the week, basically. It's been Monday Night Football forever, but Sunday, Monday, now they're playing the night before is it Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Yep.
I mean, it's
Black Friday games,
and on Netflix, on Prime, it's a never-ending money machine for the NFL.
No doubt, man. And they would attack Saturdays if they get away. They would attack Friday if they wanted to go up. If they wanted to, well, let's forget about high school football that it even exists. We're just gonna have Friday night football now.
That's it.
They probably could. They've owned one day of the week, and now they're trying to own other days and holidays as well. Yeah, it's crazy the NFL juggernaut, man.
And we'll keep talking about it, no doubt about it. Hey, LaVelle, thanks so much for stopping by. Appreciate it. It's always great to get your insights, and looking forward to talking to you down the road. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You've been listening to Rosen Sports Monday here on Talk North Sports.